Chapter 1327. If I had fallen into the hands of others, I would have died. However, in the hands of the ninth young master, I have completely turned the situation around, turning misfortune into blessings. From now on, all the hidden dangers have been removed and my cultivation has been restored. By Tian Tong. From today onwards, it will be the end of the Bai family. The Bai family had really gone too far. Ever since Bai Feng had plotted against Yen Yang, the Bai family had continuously stepped on family whose decline to rise. They had been kind to others and Yen Yang had even treated Bai Feng as her sister. She had protected the Bai family during their most difficult period in Wildland City. However, how had the Bai family repaid them? Yen Yang had gotten pregnant before marriage and missed out on the engagement with the Hua family. She had been accused of being a slut. She had illicit relations with others. Family who had been humiliated. His son Hu Fei had a bright future and should have become a dazzling star in Wildland City. However, he had been forced into a deep sleep during the best years of his life. He had been bedridden for more than 10 years. If it had not been for Luo Qingtong, if it had not been for her extraordinary abilities, medical skills and knowledge of the Gu technique, Hu Fei would have been a useless person even if he had woken up today. As for himself, he had almost been forced to his death on the bed by the Bai family. Their goal was to get what Bai Feng had gotten from framing Yen Yang. Only the heavens knew that if time could be turned back, life could be restarted. He would rather use that so-called compensation, in exchange for his daughter's most beautiful smile. These people deserved to die. Bai Feng deserved to die. Everyone in the Bai family deserved to die. Hu Zhongtian's eyes were filled with tears of blood. His expression was terrifying. The two people he cared about the most in his life. His pearl, his pride, his light and hope. All of it had been destroyed by the Bai family. Even though Hu Fei had recovered his strength and Yen Yang was doing well, the memories of the past could not be washed away. The sorrow of the past could not be forgotten. He wanted the Bai family to pay with their blood. The sixth elder was so shocked that he almost fell to the ground. You actually know everything. They even knew that eldest miss was the one who had harmed Yen Yang. The sixth elder's heart trembled to the extreme. He was frightened by Hu Zhongtian's words. It wasn't because he was afraid that Hu Zhongtian and the others would seek revenge after finding out the truth. Instead, he was afraid that once Hu Zhongtian and the others knew the truth, they would spread the news. The person who took away Yen Yang's virginity. If he knew what happened back then. Thinking of this, the sixth elder's body suddenly trembled violently. He had heard the young miss and the family head mention more than once that the identity of the man who took Yen Yang's virginity was no small matter. Now that Hu Zhongtian and Hu Yenyang knew the truth. No way. He had to rush back immediately. Tell the patriarch and the eldest miss to get ready. They had to kill Hu Zhongtian and the others at all costs. With that thought in mind, he immediately said to the guard commander beside him, "Quick! Hurry up and stop Hu Zhongtian. I will immediately go back and inform the family head and the others." That guard commander also knew the seriousness of the matter and immediately blocked in front of him in a flash. However, before the sixth elder could turn around and leave, a voice rang out. At this moment, a figure came out from behind the screen and looked at them coldly. "Sixth elder, where are you going? Since you're here, then don't leave." Chapter 1328. You. Looking at this figure, the sixth elder and the others were shocked beyond words. In an instant they couldn't even speak properly. Hu Fei. They called out his name in shock and disbelief as they looked at the figure that emerged from behind the screen. Solid aura, vigorous fluctuations of strength. The Hu Fei standing in front of them didn't seem to be pale and dispirited from being bedridden for more than a decade. Instead, he was strong and powerful, his body straight and firm. It was as if he hadn't been bedridden, paralyzed or unconscious for the past decade, but had been in closed-door cultivation. And the sage realm fluctuations that came from this man's body caused the sixth elder's face to turn pale with fright. Just like great-granduncle and the others, the sixth elder couldn't figure out why Hu Fei had been bedridden for so many years, but his cultivation and strength had risen instead. Just what had happened to family Hu during this time? As he was thinking this, he suddenly remembered Hu Zhongtian's words. Then his eyes locked onto Lu Qingtong, who was still lazily sitting in the armchair, gently stroking the sleeping silver fox in her arms. "It's you." This He Jiu had changed the fate of family Hu? He had cured Hu Zhongtian and awakened Hu Fei? He had even made Hu Fei's strength break through during this time. Just who was this person? Why did he have such abilities? The young miss had clearly said that Hu Zhongtian and Hu Fei could not be cured. Hu Zhongtian was one thing. But Hu Fei's coma had been hidden from the man who had taken Yen Yang's virginity. With that man's strength and status, he hadn't been able to see through it. How could this youth have seen through it? Not only that, but he had also awakened Hu Fei and restored his cultivation. As the sixth elder thought this, his heart suddenly trembled with horror. Who the hell are you? With such outstanding medical skills and abilities, it was impossible for this person to be unknown in the true Spill continent. But no matter how the sixth elder searched his memories, he couldn't find the name Yijiao. If this person wasn't hiding too deeply, then he was using a fake name. You are not qualified to know my master's identity. Luo Qingtong glanced at the sixth elder indifferently. She didn't say anything, but Yen Yang coldly said, "Master." The other party's background was indeed extraordinary. The sixth elder was horrified. He looked at Luo Qingtong's youthful face, that calm and demonic aura. Suddenly a thought popped into his mind. What if this young man's face is not fake but his real age? Then, within the Sky Spill continent, for someone to possess such a young age and also possess such profound and terrifying medical skills. The sixth elder seemed to have thought of something and instantly looked as if he had seen a ghost. He pointed at Luo Qingtong and was speechless for a long time. Seeing that he seemed to have guessed her identity, Luo Qingtong's lips curved slightly, then she waved her hand. "Kill him." Her voice was concise and to the point, revealing absolute coldness and ruthlessness. Towards her enemies, Luo Qingtong had never been merciful. Not to mention the other party had already guessed her identity. That meant he had to die. Chapter 1329. She likes the feeling of being in the dark while the enemy is out in the open. Who made the rule that only the enemy can cause trouble in the dark? He likes it too. Yes. As Luo Qingtong's voice rang out, Hu Zhongtian and Hu Fei, who could no longer hold themselves back, charged towards sixth elder and the others. The latter's group was only a guard commander and sixth elder were only at the saint's stage. In front of Hu Zhongtian and his son they were nothing. Sixth elder's words were cut short and he did not even have the chance to escape before he was surrounded and killed by Hu Zhongtian and Hu Fei. He, along with the group of Bai family guards who had swaggered over and the commander of the guards, had all died at the hands of Hu Zhongtian and Hu Fei. At the moment of his death, sixth elder only had one thought in his mind. It's over. It's completely over. The Bai family is finished. He's finished too. Bang. The bodies of sixth elder and the others crashed heavily onto the ground. However, Hu Zhongtian and Hu Fei's faces were still filled with malice. Their eyes were bloodshot, and when they looked at the bodies of sixth elder and the others, their eyes were filled with unconcealable hatred and viciousness. It's not enough. Just the blood of these people is not enough. The blood, tears, pain, and suffering of their family for so many years can only be washed away with the blood of the Bai family. Bang! Hu Zhongtian took a step forward and grabbed the body of a Bai family guard, tearing it into pieces. Ah! He raised his head to the sky and howled. His howl was filled with years of forbearance and restraint. Now he unleashed it all. Hu Fei stood beside him with bloodshot eyes. Both father and son looked at Luo Qingtong at the same time. With a bang, Hu Zhongtian was the first to kneel on the ground, followed by Hu Fei. Ninth young master. Hu Zhongtian's eyes were bloodshot. He kowtowed to Luo Qingtong and said solemnly, "You've saved our family whose life. Father and son have no way to repay your kindness. We should repay you with our bodies and pledge our loyalty to you, young master. But the Bai family and our family who have great enmity. We, father and son, have no choice but to take revenge for more than 10 years of suffering. We dare not implicate you, young master. Please leave quickly and don't stay in family who any longer. We will go to the Bai family for revenge. Please take care of Yen Yang and Ling Feng." At this point, Hu Zhongtian kowtowed 3 times to Luo Qingtong. The sufferings that his children had suffered, and the humiliation that he had suffered, he would definitely seek revenge from the Bai family. This was a battle of revenge that belonged to family who. Luo Qingtong should not be implicated. As for Yen Yang and Chu Lingfeng, following Luo Qingtong would be better than staying in family who. It could also be considered as leaving behind a trace of their family Hu bloodline. At this time Hu Zhongtian no longer had any worries about his family and clan. His entire being was indescribably relaxed and he no longer had any regrets. After kowtowing to Luo Qingtong, he stood up and prepared to leave. Behind him Hu Fei also kowtowed 3 times to Luo Qingtong with red eyes. Then he stood up and followed behind his father, preparing to leave. As a son and the future successor of family Hu, he was duty-bound to avenge family Hu. Father. Big brother. Hu Yenyang looked at the backs of the two of them as they left. Instantly, her heart felt like it was being stabbed by a knife and tears streamed down her face. Master. Please let me go with father and brother. Yenyang once said that her life belongs to master. But at this moment, I really can't let myself stay out of this. Chapter 1330. Hu Yenyang knelt on the ground. Ever since she was saved by Luo Qingtong and swore her loyalty to Luo Qingtong, her life belonged to Luo Qingtong. She shouldn't have said such words. However, she really couldn't just watch Hu Zhongtian and Hu Fei leave. Since they were a family, they should live and die together. Now that Chu Lingfeng had Luo Qingtong's protection, she had no regrets. The only one she felt guilty towards was Luo Qingtong. Yenyang is unfaithful. Please grant my wish, mistress. Please grant my wish, mistress. Yenyang knelt on the ground and kowtowed to Luo Qingtong twice. Enough. When she kowtowed for the 3rd time, Luo Qingtong suddenly flicked her sleeve and stopped her. I didn't say you can't go. Why do you have to be separated by life and death? Luo Qingtong frowned slightly. She stood up and looked at Yenyang, who was pleasantly surprised. She suddenly raised her head and looked at her. Let's go together. Luo Qingtong killed Bai Jintang and stole the clear heart purple jade fruit and the thunder beast that the Bai family wanted. The enmity between them and the Bai family had long been formed. The fact that she didn't have family Hu was unavoidable. Now, with the addition of family Hu's matter and the map in their possession, sooner or later, they would have to face the Bai family. Since that was the case, this time family Hu wanted revenge. Let's go together. With this thought in mind, Luo Qingtong walked out with the silver fox in her arms. Little Pig had already been stored in the 9-layer exquisite pagoda. That guy's strength hadn't recovered yet, so Luo Qingtong didn't allow him to wander around outside. She didn't want anything to happen to him. As for the silver fox, Luo Qingtong frowned. She originally wanted to store it in the 9-layer exquisite pagoda. After all, the 9-layered exquisite pagoda was the demon-subduing pagoda. It was extremely beneficial for the recovery of demonic beasts' auras and injuries. But when she tried, she didn't succeed. Could it be that this little guy had already been contracted by Yi Qianxian? Or was it because of the 10-directional dragon ring? As Luo Qingtong thought this, she touched the black dragon ring on the silver fox's paw. Although she was confused, she didn't think too much about it. Since he couldn't put it away, he would just put it in his sleeve. Otherwise, when she moved later, it would be difficult for her to use it. Moreover, he was also afraid of hurting the sleeping little fellow. As Luo Qingtong thought this, she put the silver fox back into her sleeve. At the same time, Hu Zhongtian and Hu Fei were pleasantly surprised when they heard that Luo Qingtong wanted to go with them. But soon they began to worry. Young master. Hu Zhongtian looked at Luo Qingtong and said, to tell you the truth, the Bai family's strength is one of the best among the middle-ranked families in Wildland City. And our family Hu has already fallen to the bottom of the middle-ranked families after all these years of decline. Although we have already recovered and improved our cultivation with the help of the young master, we still haven't recovered. But in terms of overall strength, our family Hu is still far behind the Bai family. This time we father and son are going to die. But young master, you are different. You don't have to take the risk with us. Both of them looked sincere. Luo Qingtong saved their family Hu. Naturally, they didn't want her to be in danger because of their family Hu's grudge. Family whose strength was inferior to the Bai family. They didn't think that they would be able to return alive from this trip. They only wanted the Bai family to pay with their blood. How could they implicate Luo Qingtong? Chapter 1331. Master, it's all right. Luo Qingtong's expression was indifferent. I have my own plans. When the time comes, all of you just have to listen to me. Since she wanted to go with family Hu, she naturally had a way. Don't worry, whatever the Bai family owes you and Yenyang, I will naturally make them pay back bit by bit. As Luo Qingtong spoke, she flicked her sleeves and walked out. Hu Yenyang and Hu Zhongtian were pleasantly surprised as they hurriedly followed behind her. This young girl had single-handedly saved family Hu and pulled family Hu and them out of the bottomless abyss. Not to mention Luo Qingtong asking them to listen to her, even if Luo Qingtong asked them to die. As long as they could make the Bai family pay the price, Hu Zhongtian and his son would do it without batting an eyelid. As for Hu Yenyang, she was well aware of her master's capabilities. As long as she agreed to help, there was a high chance that she would be able to avenge family Hu didn't know that the evil Dr. Ghost Eye would never lie or speak nonsense. He was a man of his word. Hu Yenyang felt that she must have accumulated a huge amount of kindness in her previous life, which was why she was saved by Luo Qingtong at the most critical moment of her life. From then on, the fate of her and her son would be completely changed. Hu Yenyang could not believe that if Chu Lingfeng had not met Luo Qingtong, who had gone to the Blackfield subsidy to make a name for herself, what would have happened to her and her son? She was afraid that the grass on their graves would have reached their waists by now. And family Hu, her father and eldest brother, would have been driven to their deaths in endless despair and pain? As Luo Qingtong thought of this, she could not help but burst into tears. At the same time in the Bai family, when Luo Qingtong was enhancing Hu Fei's strength, Bai Feng was already rolling on the ground in pain. She was connected to the heart of the Gu Poison Queen. This was originally the most foolproof way for her to control the Gu Mother. But now it had become the source of her greatest pain. When Luo Qingtong severed her connection with the Gu Poison Queen, Bai Feng felt as if her heart had been crushed and she spat out a mouthful of blood. But now the reverse Gu technique was like pulling out her tendons and peeling off her bones. It caused her entire body to twitch in pain. What shocked Bai Feng even more was that the power and cultivation within her body seemed to be wildly sucked away by something and was continuously draining away. No. Bai Feng screamed crazily. Apart from the fact that she had absorbed Hu Fei's essence, energy and spirit to enhance her own potential, the other part of her strength was the large amount of nourishment she had received from the voodoo sect. But now all of this strength was flowing away like water. Bai Feng felt like she was about to go crazy. This loss of strength did not seem like an ordinary loss of strength. This was a complete regression of his cultivation. And because the Gu Mother was connected to her heart's blood, the strength that had been drained away would never return. This meant that no matter how much of Bai Feng's strength had been drained away, she was destined to be the same person in the future. She would never be able to replenish her strength. This was the backlash from the Gu Mother's reverse Gu. In the end, before Bai Feng was completely sucked into a cripple, she severed her connection with the Queen of the Parasites with a bang. She had almost exploded her own heart in order to completely break free from the terrifying suction force. Chapter 1332. One must know that Bai Feng was an expert who was very close to surpassing the Saint realm. Whether it was in the Bai family or the Hua family, she was highly respected and highly regarded. Now her cultivation had suddenly dropped to the Martial Emperor realm. Moreover, it was barely maintained at the Martial Emperor realm and could fall at any time. This unforeseen event instantly caused her face to distort, and she almost fainted. Bai Chongfeng, who had been watching all this from the side, had his eyes wide open. He didn't know what was going on. He had sent people to seal off the entire hall and searched everywhere. However, he didn't find any signs of anyone attacking Bai Feng. How did Bai Feng suddenly become like this? Moreover, her cultivation. Bai Chongfeng's face was filled with shock as he looked at Bai Feng's martial emperor cultivation. He couldn't believe his eyes. It was as if she had cultivated some evil technique and because of some mistake she was suddenly beaten back to her original state and even fell back. Bai Chongfeng looked at Bai Feng in shock. Feng, your previous cultivation. He didn't know that Bai Feng knew Gu techniques. Bai Feng had concealed everything very well. The voodoo sect was her faction. Other than herself, even Bai Chongfeng didn't know. Every time Bai Feng used the voodoo sect's strength to solve problems for the Bai family, Bai Chongfeng didn't know the truth. He even thought that Bai Feng was using the Hua family's strength. Now that he saw Bai Feng's aura suddenly disappear, he thought about how Bai Feng's strength had increased very quickly over the years. It didn't make sense. Others might think that Bai Feng was talented and had accumulated a lot of strength. However, Bai Chongfeng knew that Bai Feng's talent was actually not very good. Yan Yang's physique was powerful. It was just that she had always been pampered and didn't have much interest in cultivation. Every time she just casually cultivated. If Bai Feng hadn't told him this secret, he wouldn't have known. Back then, Bai Feng was crazily jealous of Yan Yang. Therefore, her strength increased by leaps and bounds later on was very abnormal. Bai Chongfeng had thought that it was because she had received better training and treatment in the Hua family. Now it seemed that she had cultivated some evil technique. Could it be that she had suffered a backlash? It had to be said that Bai Chongfeng had guessed the truth. However, he would never have guessed that this backlash wasn't natural. It was man-made. Family Hu. There's something wrong with the family Hu. Big brother, hurry. Call back the people from family Hu. Bai Feng finally awoke from the despair of losing her strength. She hurriedly said to Bai Chongfeng. She was the one who fed the Gu mother, so she naturally knew that this was the backlash from the Gu mother. To be able to make the Gu mother that she fed with her heart's blood lose control and backfire, the person who controlled the Gu must be much stronger than her in terms of Gu arts. Moreover, who knew how many powerful Gu techniques he had mastered. This was a type of Gu worm that could feed on the heart's blood, and it was the method used by the Gu mother. Bai Feng had seen it in the Gu technique manual that she cultivated before. But that was almost at the top of all Gu techniques. It wasn't something she could use right now. It was also not something that an ordinary person could use. If the other party's strength was not abnormally strong, then the other party's understanding of the Gu arts had already reached the core and could move at will. Chapter 1333. What made Bai Feng even more terrified was the fact that this reverse Gu technique required a person who was previously infected with the Gu as a medium to use it. In other words, Hu Fei didn't die. And this reverse Gu technique was also made for him. Family who has such a person secretly protecting him. Bai Feng thought of the voodoo sect that she destroyed and hurriedly told Bai Chongfeng to call back the people who were sent to family Hu. Bai Chongfeng didn't even have the time to ask Bai Feng what this had to do with family Hu. Family Hu and his son were both terminally ill, paralyzed and on the verge of death. How could they have caused her to become like this? Bai Chongfeng subconsciously thought that Bai Feng was trying to hide the fact that she cultivated an evil technique and her strength had regressed. But pushing the blame onto the Hu clan was also a little too outrageous. He frowned and was about to speak when a series of hurried footsteps suddenly sounded from outside. What followed was a panicked voice that made a report. Not good. Family head. Family whose people are here. The guard who came to report was panting as he ran, and there was a look of disbelief on his face. When he stepped through the door, he suddenly staggered and fell to the ground. Then, with an anxious and frightened expression, he said to Bai Chongfeng, "Family head not good. Hu Zhongtian and Hu Fei seem to be safe and sound. Not only that, they also invited many families in Wildland City and said that they want to expose our Bai family's true colors. Family head, you should quickly go and take a look." What? Bai Chongfeng suddenly stood up from his chair when he heard the guard's report. He couldn't believe his ears. Bai Feng straightened her back as well. She struggled to get up from the ground and almost collapsed several times before she managed to get up. Father. Family who came prepared. Her face was gloomy. What we did back then should have already been discovered by them. Now that Hu Fei has woken up, he must have already told Hu Zhongtian and Hu Yenyang everything he eavesdropped on. Bai Feng was more worried about the mysterious person who was controlling the Gu Poison Queen from behind the scenes. The person who had destroyed the voodoo sect must have obtained a lot of evidence against her. Fortunately, she had always been very cautious. Although those things in the voodoo sect could let them know that she was the one behind the voodoo sect, they couldn't use them as evidence to accuse her. At that time, if family whose people were to take out the evidence, she would be able to turn the tables on them. However, those people who were controlled by the Gu worms, if they were to testify together, it would be difficult for him to deal with them. But luckily, that person was trying to restore Hu Fei's strength. He had used the essence of the Gu mother. Now the Gu mother should be unable to control the Gu worms in those people's bodies. As for those people, in order to preserve their lives, they would absolutely not take the initiative to come out and confess when the Gu worms were not acting strangely. As Bai Feng thought about this, she felt much more at ease. As long as those things were not exposed, family who alone would not be able to do anything to them. Father, let's go out. If family who wants to avenge themselves, It depends on whether they have the ability to do so. Since they came to our door themselves, then this time we'll completely eliminate them. We can't let them leave. Bai Feng's eyes were full of murderous intent. Hu Zhongtian and the others knew everything. This family can't be left alive. Chapter 1334. At first, Bai Feng was worried that the person who was secretly protecting family who would make a move. But now it seemed that the other party was just gifted in the art of witchcraft. In terms of strength, they might not be that powerful. Otherwise, family who would not have needed to come to the Bai family to settle the score. They would have needed to invite the other families in Wild City to come as well. Unfortunately, the Bai family now was no longer the Bai family that needed to rely on family who to survive. Family who was no longer the leader of the middle-ranked families in Wild City. They could enter the ranks of the top families at any time. Bai Feng sneered. How could the people from the other families in Wild City, whom Hu Zhongtian had invited, stand on their side and oppose them? Hu Zhongtian was really old and useless. Hu Fei, on the other hand, was so naive because she had just woken up from her coma. As for Hu Yenyong, she really should go out and see how she had been all these years. After all of this was because of her, wasn't it? Hu Yenyong could not defeat her in the past, but could she still defeat her now? As Bai Feng thought of this, her heart suddenly filled with pride. Even the pain of losing her cultivation was no longer so unbearable. The pain and despair that she had just experienced. Family who would have to go through all of it. And the person who was secretly helping family who reverse her witchcraft and using the mother of the witchcraft to devour her. She also wanted family who to give her an explanation. By then, no matter what, she would capture the other party and force them to hand over the mother of the witchcraft and restore her cultivation. Bai Feng gritted her teeth as she thought of this. All right. Wash up and change your clothes. We will go out immediately. Bai Chongfeng said. He was a little panicked at first, but he quickly calmed down after hearing Bai Feng's words. That's right, the Bai family was no longer the Bai family of the past. Family who was also no longer the family who of the past. Hu Zhongtian could forget about trying to take advantage of him. The worst that could happen was that the news of that thing would be announced to the world. He had already sent the news to the Hua family in advance. When Hua Ting and the others arrived, the Bai clan would still benefit from that item. As for Hu Zhongtian and the others, they could only wait to lose their lives in the hands of the Bai clan. Thinking like this, Bai Chongfeng immediately opened the door and welcomed Hu Zhongtian and the others inside. At the same time, in a remote corner of the Bai family's courtyard, two figures suddenly leaped over the courtyard wall and appeared there. Master, what are we doing here? Chu Lingfeng looked at Luo Qingtong beside him with a confused expression. Grandfather and mother were still at the entrance of the Bai family. Why did Master bring her here? Were they here to ambush the Bai family? As Chu Lingfeng thought of this, he became excited. He was also rubbing his fists, ready to fight at any time. Although he was an idiot, he was extremely filial. However, when he found out that the sufferings that Yen Yang had suffered all these years and the calamities that Hu Zhongtian and Hu Fei had suffered were all caused by Bai Feng and the Bai family, he immediately hated them to the core. He hated that he could not get rid of them as soon as possible. However, Luo Qingtong's voice rang out, causing him to be stunned. Let's go and save them. Save a group of people who could consign the Bai family to eternal damnation. The corners of Luo Qingtong's lips curled up slightly. The blood-red color in her eyes flashed and she quickly locked onto the place she was looking for. Let's go. Let's go. Luo Qingtong led Chu Lingfeng into the inner courtyard of the Bai family. Chapter 1335. At the same time, in the Bai family's martial arts arena, Family Hu and many other family clans were invited into the Bai family's residence and were given seats in the martial arts arena. Hu Zhongtian, you said that you wanted to expose Family Hu's conspiracy and that it had something to do with us. You're not lying to us, are you? All the small and medium-sized family clans in Wild City were invited over by Hu Zhongtian's letter. Some of them did not want to come. But Hu Zhongtian said in the letter that they were only invited to be witnesses and that they were not required to deal with the Bai family together. Moreover, many of the things that the Bai family had done also implicated their family clans. These people did not believe it at first, but Hu Zhongtian's letter contained some secrets that only their family clans knew. As a result, these people could not sit still and came to the Bai family's residence to see what Family Hu was up to. Was what Hu Zhongtian said true or not? Or did he secretly gather the information and deliberately say that he wanted to use them to deal with the Bai family? The group of people looked very unfriendly. They did not believe Hu Zhongtian from the beginning, and now the Bai family was so magnanimous and opened the door to let them in. Some of them began to suspect Hu Zhongtian. They wondered if the other party had deliberately lured them here to put pressure on the Bai family. After all, family who was not as powerful as the Bai family. If Hu Zhongtian and the others wanted to deal with the Bai family, it was impossible for them to do so with their own strength. Thinking that they might be used as a tool, these family clansmen felt a wave of displeasure in their hearts. His tone when speaking to Hu Zhongtian was not that polite. "Why are you so anxious? Since I called you here, I naturally have my own plans. The Bai family's true colors will be exposed. I will tell you what they did to your family later. But now I want to settle the score with the Bai family for what they did to family Hu." Hu Zhongtian said coldly as he looked at these family clans. He had already seen through the true colors of these family clans in Wild City. In the far west wilderness, the law of the jungle was the most serious. In the past, family Hu was considered to be strong and powerful, and they were able to protect a region. Many of the clans here were like the Bai clan in the past, receiving family Hu's favor and protection. But now, after receiving family Hu's letter, they immediately came over and expressed that there were only two families who stood by family Hu's side. Hu Zhongtian looked at the two patriarchs of the small families standing beside him. Both of them had received favors from family Hu when they were young. One was because of Hu Zhongtian's help, which allowed him to preserve his clan's foundation and survive in this wildland city where the strong preyed on the weak. The other was when he was outside exploring and was attacked by demonic beasts and was saved by Hu Fei. It was just a matter of lifting a finger. Hu Fei himself did not even remember such a thing. The other party, on the other hand, had established his own clan after becoming famous. Now that family Hu had sent him a letter, he immediately rushed over without hesitation. Patriarch family Hu, a drop of water should be repaid with a gushing spring. I am indebted to young Master Hu Fei for saving my life, and I am willing to do my best for family Hu. Chapter 1336. In the past they didn't know about the relationship between family Hu and the Bai family. They also didn't know that family Hu had been set up by the Bai family. Now that they knew, they couldn't just stand by and watch. They would repay the debt of saving their lives with their entire family. If not for family Hu, they wouldn't have the foundation they had now. Right and wrong, these two people were very clear about it. Apart from them, no one else was willing to stand on family Hu's side. If not for the letter that Luo Qingtong had Hu Zhongtian write to them and the secrets that she had obtained from the voodoo sect, not only would these people not come, they would even hand the letter to the Bai family to take credit for it. Hu Zhongtian glanced indifferently at the impatient family members, then turned his gaze to the Bai family members who were approaching from a short distance away. Bai Chongfeng and Bai Feng walked at the very front, leading many experts of the Bai family in a majestic and imposing manner as they made their way towards the training grounds. They opened the door wide and welcomed these people in. Their goal was to capture and kill family Hu's people in front of these people. Perhaps they could even kill them with a borrowed knife. Then even if that man suddenly returned and found out about Hu Yenyang, they would still have something to say. Bai Chongfeng and the rest had this thought in their minds. Suddenly, their gazes became even more fierce as they walked towards the training field. Family Hu was really a case of not taking the road to heaven and barging into hell. Since they themselves couldn't wait to die, then they would die. Then let's shed all pretense of cordiality. Bai Chongfeng and the others arrived at the martial arts practice field. In an instant, the voices of those who were still questioning Hu Zhongtian, and even those who were disdainful towards him, all stopped. Family head Bai. Young mistress Bai. Those middle-ranked family members were the first to greet Bai Chongfeng and Bai Feng. These people weren't necessarily afraid of the Bai family. But behind Bai Feng was the top-ranked Hua family. They were not to be trifled with. Everyone still had to give them some face. But speaking of which, in the past the Hua family was family Hu's in-laws. As for Hua Ting, if Hu Yenyang had not been involved in that incident, he would not have been able to survive. The position of young madam of the Hua family would most likely not belong to Bai Feng. With that thought in mind, the expressions on everyone's faces became subtle. They looked at Hu Yenyang, who had been following Hu Zhongtian and Hu Fei without saying a word since the beginning. It was as if she didn't exist at all. No one had noticed her before. At this moment, because of Bai Feng's appearance, everyone was reminded of her. He thought of this young lady who was once a beauty in Wildland City, who was known as the flower of a famous family. If it hadn't been for that incident, Hu Yenyang would have married into the Huo family and become the young madam of the Huo family. However, they had always thought that Hu Yenyang had died outside. But from the looks of it now, he didn't seem to be having a bad time outside. As everyone thought this, their gazes involuntarily swept past Hu Yenyang's aura. Even though she was standing beside Hu Zhongtian and Hu Fei without saying a word, Hu Yenyang's aura was actually not inferior to Hu Zhongtian's. No, that kind of strategic and authoritative aura was even above Hu Zhongtian's. How was this the aura of someone who had fled the far western wastelands in dire straits? Chapter 1337. At that moment she clenched her fists tightly under her sleeves. This woman, Hu Yenyang, was pregnant and had been hunted down by her. She had almost escaped from the western wastelands with her life hanging by a thread. Bai Feng had thought that even if she had returned, she would have been tormented by life and would have aged like an old woman. Who would have thought that she would have such a mature charm? Furthermore, she now had a heroic and noble air that had not been there before. At this moment, Yenyang was even more charming than before. As Bai Feng watched, she was so jealous that she almost broke her fingernails. She had been the young mistress of the Huo family for more than 10 years, but her aura could not even compare to Hu Yenyang. How could she tolerate this? The other party was just an idiot who had once been trampled on by her like a dog. How could she possibly suppress her? As Bai Feng thought this, she immediately lowered her eyes to hide the coldness and jealousy in her eyes. Her eyes were full of smiles as she looked at Hu Yenyang. Yenyang, I didn't think that it would really be you. When my father told me that you had returned, I thought that he was lying to me. But why didn't you come to see me when you've returned? What's going on? Bai Feng was shocked. She looked at Hu Yenyang with a puzzled, doubtful, aggrieved and hurt look in her eyes. However, there was no hesitation or panic due to a guilty conscience. Bai Feng had framed Yenyang and pretended to care for her after she had lost her virginity. She had even used this as an opportunity to climb up the Huo family and had schemed to make Huiting notice her and fall in love with her. She had even been able to twist the truth in front of the man who had taken Yenyang's virginity and gloss over the matter. How could her scheming and shrewdness be just a little? How could she have revealed any flaws in front of others? Her performance had instantly bewitched everyone present. The group of family members who had been invited by Hu Zhongtian looked at Bai Feng's performance. They began to suspect that the things that Hu Zhongtian had mentioned in his letter could not have been groundless, right? After all, when Bai Feng had married Huiting, it could be said that she had snatched Hu Yenyang's fiancé. But in the end, it was Hu Yenyang who acted inappropriately and did something wrong. Could it be that Hu Yenyang was not satisfied with her life outside, so she came back to snatch Huiting back? If this was the case, then what Hu Zhongtian said before about the Bai family's persecution was probably a lie. He was deliberately trying to frame Bai Feng and the Bai family. With that thought in mind, everyone looked at family Hu and Hu Yenyang with disdain. It was true that once he gained the upper hand he would bite back. Bai Feng had helped Hu Yenyang a lot when she was in trouble. If she had not stood up for her, how would Bai Feng have known Huiting, the young master of the Huo family? Speaking of which, Hu Yenyang's fiancé was her own doing. What qualifications do they have to bite back at the Bai family? With that thought in mind, everyone looked at Hu Yenyang and the others with even more disdain. They did not know that the Bai family had secretly forced Hu Zhongtian to hand over the map of the Holy King's tomb. They also did not know that when Bai Feng had said that she had helped Hu Yenyang, she had used her as a stepping stone to cross paths with Huiting. If that was not the case, how could she have become the young madam of the Huo family? Bai Feng sensed the change in everyone's gaze and instantly smiled smugly in her heart. Just based on these Hu clan people, they wanted to fight with him? She had casually said a few words and everyone was on her side. Chapter 1338. Bai Feng was secretly pleased with herself, but she did not show it on her face. She looked at Hu Yenyang with a puzzled look on her face. Lady Yen, are you blaming me for snatching Ating away? But, It was because of what happened to you that year. He and I. If Bai Feng's previous words were to drive a wedge between the various family clans and Hu Zhongtian and the rest. But now her words were like a vicious stab to their hearts. It was a vicious stab to the hearts of Hu Zhongtian, Hu Fei and Hu Yenyang. What was the most unforgettable thing for Hu Zhongtian and the rest? It was that Hu Yenyang had been falsely accused of having an affair before marriage and had gotten pregnant before marriage. She had become the laughingstock and the target of disdain in the wild city. The family whose many years of suffering had all been because of this incident. Bai Feng was the one who had committed this incident. Now that she had said it in such a tone, her words vaguely implied that it was because of Hu Yenyang that the Hua family and Hua Ting did not want Hu Yenyang, so that she could become the young mistress of the Hua family. If Hu Yenyang, Hu Zhongtian and the others had really come here with resentment in their hearts, Bai Feng's words would definitely cause them to lose all sense of reason and attack them without regard for anything else. Then they would be able to openly capture and kill Hu Zhongtian and the rest in front of so many family clans. They would even incite those family clans who wanted to curry favor with them and make amends for their mistakes to kill Hu Zhongtian and the rest with a borrowed knife. They would completely push the matter away from the Bai family. However, even though Bai Feng's plan was well thought out, Hu Yenyang and the rest did not pay any attention to her. They had resentment in their hearts. They had hatred. But they had received instructions from Luo Qingtong. Even if they did not want to implicate Luo Qingtong, they would not act rashly. Bai Feng, do you think that after Hua Ting married you I would still care about a blind man like that? Hu Yenyang looked at Bai Feng and said mockingly. Bai Feng was still the same. She would use Hua Ting to provoke her. She had once cried so miserably in front of him. She said that she had no choice but to fall in love with Hua Ting. She wanted him to fulfill her wish. At that time, Yenyang's chastity had been taken away, and she was pregnant with a child. She was even reprimanded as a slut. How miserable and difficult was her life. Hearing this news was like a bolt from the blue. He truly loved Hua Ting. Otherwise, she would not have been in such pain and despair after finding out that her innocence had been tainted and that she was pregnant with his child. No one knew how much pain Yenyang was in at that time. However, she still tearfully told Bai Feng that she was willing to fulfill her wish. When Yenyang didn't know the truth, she naively thought that Bai Feng told her this because he felt sorry for her. However, from the looks of it now, Bai Feng was here to provoke her on purpose. If it wasn't for the fact that the man who took her virginity back then had exceeded Bai Feng's control and imagination, causing her to make a mistake in her plan, he was afraid that she would leave him in the desolate city for the rest of his life to live a lowly life, enjoying the stimulation and humiliation she brought him. Bai Feng, you really have a vicious mind and a vicious scheme. Yenyang's eyes were cold. When she had returned to the desolate city, she had already let go of everything. The most important people in her life were her master Chu Lingfeng, Hu Zhongtian and Hu Fei. Chapter 1339. Back then she had been too foolish and naive. She had only been filled with self-pity for losing her chastity and being unworthy of Hua Ting. Now that she thought about it, if that man had even the slightest bit of sincerity and pity for her, he would have stood up for her when she had been forced into such a state by the Hua family. After all, everyone could choose not to believe her. He could not. So if he is heartless, I will stop. Furthermore, he had married a woman like Bai Feng. Hu Yenyang had already cut off her last bit of delusions towards him. Bai Feng had still wanted to use Hua Ting to attack her. He was simply dreaming. Hu Yenyang no longer cared about Hua Ting? When Bai Feng heard her words, she was stunned at first. Then waves of anger uncontrollably surfaced in her mind. How could she not care about Hua Ting? Bai Feng had fought with her for her entire life. She had been most pleased with herself for having successfully schemed against Hua Ting and obtaining the identity of the Hua family's young mistress. If Hu Yenyang no longer cared about Hua Ting, what else would Bai Feng have to show off in front of her? How would she be able to see her miserable and despairing expression? Bai Feng's heart was filled with malevolence. She clenched her fists fiercely, but the smile on her face was forced and gentle. Yenyang, I know that you are saying this in a fit of anger. You are angry that I got together with Hua Ting, but we really had no choice. Hu Yenyang watched her flawless performance and secretly mocked her in her heart. No wonder she had been so miserably deceived back then. Bai Feng really had the potential to be a best actress. Bai Feng, you don't have to say so much. It's no use trying to provoke me. Back then you schemed against me and caused me to lose my chastity. Then you harmed my elder brother and caused him to be in a coma and bedridden for more than 10 years. You even bribed second elder of the family whose faction to tamper with my father's medicine and caused him to fall into a terminal illness. Do you admit to all these? As Hu Yenyang spoke, she instructed the people around her to throw all the information they had gathered in front of Bai Feng and the others. Bai Feng's expression darkened when she realized that she could no longer provoke Hu Yenyang. Her previous expression instantly turned cold. Yenyang, I respect you for being my sister in the past, and because you're in a difficult situation, I don't have the heart to be too harsh on you. But you've crossed the line. She stared coldly at Hu Yenyang. It's fine if you hate me. Why are you dragging the Bai family into this? You even dragged so many people to be buried with your family. Who? Do you know that I'm not only the eldest daughter of the Bai family, but also the young madam of the Hua family? They were implicated by you to deal with me. Even if the Bai family doesn't pursue the matter, how can the Hua family let it go? It's one thing for your family who to court death, but you're dragging others down with you. Yenyang, I really misjudged you. You are actually such a venomous woman. Bai Feng scolded with a disappointed expression. As soon as she said that, the expressions of the people around her changed. These people suddenly thought of something. They had come to the Bai clan this time. Even if they didn't do anything, they were only here to watch. However, in the eyes of the Hua family, they might be seen as colluding with family who to coerce the Bai family. With such a crime on their backs, how could they have a good time in the Wildland city? As the crowd thought about it, they instantly became anxious and angry. Immediately they glared viciously at family Hu and the others. It was all Hu Zhongtian's fault. They had caused so much trouble for them. Chapter 1340. Translations. Everyone Hu Zhongtian and his family have gone overboard. It's fine if they want to deal with the Bai family, but they even tricked us into being their tool. We can't let this go on. Come on. Let's tie them up and hand them over to the Bai family. Otherwise we'll be implicated. As this voice rang out, the surrounding family clansmen seemed to have come to a realization. They looked at Hu Zhongtian and his family with a different expression. That's right, if they could capture Hu Zhongtian and his family and hand them over to the Bai family, they would be able to clear their names of colluding with family Hu to coerce the Bai family. Hu Zhongtian and his family shouldn't blame them for being too cruel. They were the ones who had gone overboard. They had tricked him and the others into participating in the grudge between them and the Bai family. In order to prevent themselves from being implicated, they had no choice but to deal with them. Family who had brought all of this upon themselves. As the family clansmen thought of this, they immediately closed in on Hu Zhongtian and his family with cold gazes. Seeing this, the two small family clan heads who were standing beside Hu Zhongtian and his family quickly asked them to leave. Bai Feng, on the other hand, had a smug smile on her face. She hid it very well, but the coldness in her eyes was as if she had been dipped in poison. Family who had wanted to use these people to create public opinion and force them to submit. But they didn't know that their setup had only benefited the Bai family. After so many years, Hu Yenyang still hadn't made any progress. She was still as stupid and brainless as before. Did they think that they could deal with them with the little evidence they had? Did they think that they were still family who had hundreds of people at their beck and call? Unfortunately, the one who held the initiative was their Bai clan. It was her Bai Feng. So what if she said something casually and the rumor that she had persecuted family who was true? Would anyone believe them? Would anyone go against her and the Bai family because of them? The smile in Bai Feng's eyes was cold. She discreetly glanced in the direction where the inciting words had come from. Over there, a person was quietly retreating, leaving the place where the group of people were. Those were the people that Bai Feng had arranged to infiltrate the group of people from the various clans and instigate them to attack Hu Zhongtian and the others. She was going to watch as Hu Zhongtian and the others were forced into a dead end. After all, it was easy to make mistakes in a chaotic battle. Was that not the case? Bai Feng had already arranged everything. When those people made their move, the two sides would be in a chaotic battle. The experts of the Bai family would step in at the right time to mediate. At that time, if they accidentally killed Hu Zhongtian and the others, how could they blame the Bai family? After all, the people of the Bai family had good intentions. The look in Bai Feng's eyes was as cold as a venomous snake. She lowered her head and lowered her eyes, restraining the intense coldness and murderous intent in her eyes. She gently stroked her hair in a seemingly graceful manner. Hu Yenyang, who had troubled her for more than 10 years, could finally be completely eliminated. From now on, she no longer had to worry about that man returning to Wildland City one day and finding out the truth of what had happened all those years ago. Because the truth was about to be completely erased by her. Bai Feng's eyes were smug and cold. At this moment. Chapter 1340. Translations. Everyone who Zhongtian and his family have gone overboard. It's fine if they want to deal with the Bai family, but they even tricked us into being their tool. We can't let this go on. Come on. Let's tie them up and hand them over to the Bai family. Otherwise we'll be implicated. As this voice rang out, the surrounding family clansmen seemed to have come to a realization. They looked at Hu Zhongtian and his family with a different expression. That's right, if they could capture Hu Zhongtian and his family and hand them over to the Bai family, they would be able to clear their names of colluding with family Hu to coerce the Bai family. Hu Zhongtian and his family shouldn't blame them for being too cruel. They were the ones who had gone overboard. They had tricked him and the others into participating in the grudge between them and the Bai family. In order to prevent themselves from being implicated, they had no choice but to deal with them. Family who had brought all of this upon themselves. As the family clansmen thought of this, they immediately closed in on Hu Zhongtian and his family with cold gazes. Seeing this, the two small family clan heads who were standing beside Hu Zhongtian and his family quickly asked them to leave. Bai Feng, on the other hand, had a smug smile on her face. She hid it very well, but the coldness in her eyes was as if she had been dipped in poison. Family who had wanted to use these people to create public opinion and force them to submit, but they didn't know that their setup had only benefited the Bai family. After so many years, Hu Yenyang still hadn't made any progress. She was still as stupid and brainless as before. Did they think that they could deal with them with the little evidence they had? Did they think that they were still family who had hundreds of people at their beck and call? Unfortunately, the one who held the initiative was their Bai clan. It was her Bai Feng. So what if she said something casually and the rumor that she had persecuted family who was true? Would anyone believe them? Would anyone go against her and the Bai family because of them? The smile in Bai Feng's eyes was cold. She discreetly glanced in the direction where the inciting words had come from. Over there, a person was quietly retreating, leaving the place where the group of people were. Those were the people that Bai Feng had arranged to infiltrate the group of people from the various clans and instigate them to attack Hu Zhongtian and the others. She was going to watch as Hu Zhongtian and the others were forced into a dead end. After all, it was easy to make mistakes in a chaotic battle. Was that not the case? Bai Feng had already arranged everything. When those people made their move, the two sides would be in a chaotic battle. The experts of the Bai family would step in at the right time to mediate. He had even helped her block countless attempts to probe her both openly and covertly. A title in the Blackfield was Shopkeeper Yen. Did Bai Feng think that it was so easy to obtain? Hu Yenyang's eyes were cold. Almost in an instant, the enmity that the other clans had towards them was turned into suspicion towards Bai Feng and the others. When these people heard Hu Yenyang's words and heard the sounds coming from the Bai family's rear courtyard, they immediately turned to look at Bai Feng and the others. Could they really be like what Hu Zhongtian and the others had said and had done something similar to what family Hu had done to their clans? Chapter 1342. After all, Hu Zhongtian and the others had exposed what the Bai family had done to family Hu. It was a little creepy. After all, Bai Feng and Hu Yenyang had been sisters for so many years. Many of them knew very well how well Hu Yenyang had treated Bai Feng back then. If Hu Yenyang and the others had really wronged the Bai family and Bai Feng, then family Hu was in the wrong. He was too greedy and couldn't bear to see the Bai family living a good life. However, if what Hu Yenyang and the others had said was true, then Bai Feng and the Bai family were really cruel and unscrupulous. Moreover, Bai Feng and the Bai family had pretended to be wronged and humiliated in front of them. If all of this was really an act, then the other party's schemes were really too vicious. After all, he had been able to disguise himself for more than 10 years without being exposed. He had harmed the Hu clan to such an extent, and when the other party came knocking on his door, he had even retaliated. He did not feel the slightest bit of guilt and even wanted to kill the Hu clan. It was not enough to describe Bai Feng and the Bai family as beasts. It should be said that they were worse than beasts. As everyone thought this, they looked at Bai Feng and the others with bewilderment. Bai Feng and the others didn't know what Hu Yenyang and the others were up to. How could there be any evidence in their backyard? Especially Bai Feng. She knew very well in her heart. Everything that she had done to these families was done by the voodoo sect's influence. In the entire Bai family, not to mention the others, even Bai Chongfeng and the others didn't know about her relationship with the voodoo sect. They also didn't know about the things that she had done to these families. How could there be any evidence left? Bai Feng's brows furrowed coldly but soon relaxed. Hu Yenyang must be bluffing to trick her. Did she think that she would be able to set up a trap and confuse her just because she didn't know who had sneaked into the backyard and caused a commotion? What a joke. Hu Yenyang had indeed improved a little. However, she didn't expect that Bai Feng had always been so meticulous and wouldn't give them a chance to deal with her. Let's see how they're going to shoot themselves in the foot. With that thought in mind, Bai Feng replied coldly, "Fine. I'll let you take a look." She was very confident that there was no evidence in the backyard of the Bai family. Even if Hu Yenyang deliberately left some evidence in their Bai family, she still had a way to expose the other party. At that time, the ones seeking their own deaths would be Hu Yenyang and the others. If the people from the clans who were with them found out that they had been deceived by them, in order to curry favor with the Bai family and clear the suspicion that they followed family Hu to coerce the Bai family, wouldn't these people tear apart family Hu's people alive? At that time it would save the Bai family a lot of effort. With this thought in mind, Bai Feng's heart grew even more proud and cold. The group headed to the inner courtyard of the Bai family. At the same time, in the depths of the Bai family's inner courtyard, where the loud noise had come from, Luo Qingtong stood at the bottom of the 100-meter-deep dungeon and looked at the entrance of the dungeon that she had blasted open. She immediately raised her head and looked at the group of people behind her with an indifferent expression. Remember what I've told you before. If you want to leave the Bai family alive and take revenge on the Bai family, then repeat everything I've said in full detail. And these things I'll give them to you as well. When the time comes, take them out together. Chapter 1343. As Luo Qingtong spoke, she sensed the auras of the Bai family and other family clans approaching. Narrowing her eyes, she pulled Chu Lingfeng and left. Behind her, a group of people who had been tortured to the point of being unrecognizable and covered in injuries took the things she gave them. Then they all looked towards the direction of the outer courtyard with hatred in their eyes. Then one by one they ran out crying, "Help! Help!" One by one they rushed out of the dungeon. All of them had injuries on their bodies. Those injuries covered almost all of their bodies. With one look, one could tell that those injuries were not caused by ordinary punishments. The exit to the ground level of the dungeon was wide open. Those people ran out crying. Soon, they attracted the attention of the people who had entered the inner courtyard of the Bai family. Over there, Hu Yenyang's face was cold as she pointed in the direction of the crying sounds. In fact, she was still a little apprehensive. Luo Qingtong had told them not to worry about anything else. They only needed to invite all the big and small family clans in Wildland City. It would be best if they could invite all the family clans who were related to the voodoo sect. At that time she would make sure that everything that Bai Feng and the voodoo sect had done would be exposed under the sun. However, Hu Yenyang knew that in order to restore Luo Qingtong's cultivation, Luo Qingtong had used the essence of the Gu Poison Queen. Now that the Gu Poison Queen had fallen into a deep slumber, it would take a long time for it to recover. It was unlikely that it would be able to control the Gu Poison Queen's Gu Poison Queen and make them stand out to accuse Bai Feng. Moreover, didn't Mistress still need the voodoo sect's arrangements? Wasn't she going to give them to Su Yu and the others to continue using? If those people were exposed, they would certainly be able to deal a blow to Bai Feng. However, they would not be able to do anything to the Bai family. Moreover, the gains would not make up for the losses. Hu Yenyang had no idea what Luo Qingtong would do. However, her trust in the young girl made her believe in Luo Qingtong without any hesitation. Everyone could also hear the cries coming from within. Following Hu Yenyang's finger, all of them immediately rushed in that direction. On the other hand, Bai Feng and the others had a bad feeling in their hearts. This was especially true for Bai Feng. She originally thought that Hu Yenyang and the others were just bluffing and setting up a trap to deceive her. Who would have thought that after entering the inner court, there would actually be a wave of cries? There were even cries for help. A bad premonition suddenly rose in Bai Feng's heart. She had a feeling that something bad had happened to her. What's going on? How could there be such cries in the backyard of the Bai family? What are you hiding from me? She glared angrily at the Bai family members behind her. The latter and the others were also stunned. They had no idea what was going on. Suddenly, the expression of one of the Bai family elders changed drastically. Then he said, I remember now. This is the place where the young master imprisoned those people. As his voice rang out, the surrounding Bai clan members seemed to have thought of something, and their expressions became somewhat unnatural. Bai Jintang's fetishes were no secret in the Bai family. Many of the powerful cultivators of the Bai family who were present knew about it. It was just that it was too difficult to talk about, so they usually did not mention it. Chapter 1344. As for Bai Jintang's matter, because Bai Feng was a married woman, no one had mentioned it to her at all. Naturally, she did not know about it. Thus she asked coldly, how could the experts of the Bai family answer? Even Bai Chongfeng felt a little awkward. It's nothing, it's just some petty hobbies. In the future I will definitely make him change and forbid him from touching it again. However, even if those people escape, it won't cause any harm to our Bai family. At most our reputation will be damaged. It's nothing, Bai Chongfeng said, and everyone else followed suit. When Bai Feng heard their words and thought about the word, imprisoned, and the cries of those people, she already had some guesses in her heart. She roughly guessed that it was some private matter that was not worth mentioning. If that was the case, there was nothing to be afraid of. Even if Hu Yenyang had rescued them, so what? What kind of impact could those people cause to the Bai family? At most, Bai Jintang's reputation would be damaged. And the Bai family's reputation of being incompetent would also be damaged a little. It was not a big deal at all. As Bai Feng thought about it, she did not take it to heart. However, why did Hu Yenyang and the rest say that there was evidence in the backyard? As Bai Feng thought about it, her face suddenly changed. Not good. Her face was filled with shock, and in an instant her entire body was like a whirlwind as she flew towards the direction of the crying sound. Quick! Kill all those people. Don't let them speak. Her voice was urgent and her movements were fast, but the people of the Bai family did not know what was going on. What's going on? Why is young Miss so panicked? There was naturally a reason why Bai Feng was so panicked. She suddenly remembered that these people were rescued by Hu Yenyang and the rest. And these people were imprisoned in the Bai family. The people they came into contact with were the direct descendants of the family, like Bai Jintang. In this way, it was possible that they had come into contact with some secret. If Bai Feng wanted to deal with the Bai family, she would definitely tell them about the poison sect's plan to deal with the Bai family after rescuing these people. She would let them accuse the Bai family. In this way, the Bai family would not be able to defend themselves. Damn it! How could she have forgotten about this? Bai Feng's expression was extremely anxious. She quickly rushed to the place where the cries were coming from. She did not have time to order the Bai family guards to kill those who had escaped from the dungeon. A series of mournful cries came from the mouths of those people. Save us! The Bai family wants to kill us. We discovered the Bai clan's plot against the entire wild city, but before we could tell anyone, we were captured and brought to this place. She was even toyed with by that beast Bai Jintang. Save us! We have evidence. As they spoke, a series of scrolls that were almost crushed into pieces were suddenly thrown into the air. In an instant, the sky was filled with books and scrolls written in black and white. Chua, one of the patriarchs of the middle-ranked clan who was the first to arrive at the exit of the dungeon, was the first to receive a scroll. He raised his head to look at what was recorded and described in it. Chapter 1345. This. On the scroll, everything that the Bai family had done to the various families in the Wild City was recorded in detail. Many of them were mysteries that the various families did not understand. Luo Qingtong had modified these things based on what the voodoo sect had done to the various families. With her eye technique, it was extremely easy for her to analyze and fabricate these dossiers. Every single one of these files was enough to pass off as genuine. Luo Qingtong had even taken into consideration the identities of these people in the dungeon and made corresponding changes to the age of these files and the degree of yellowing of the pages. She wanted to prove the authenticity of these files. Even if Bai Feng were to look at them personally, she would not be able to tell if they were real or fake. Not only that, Luo Qingtong had also added a lot of things that were not done by the voodoo sect but had a great impact on the various families. In short, she had pushed all the blame onto the Bai family and Bai Feng. Didn't Bai Feng like to scheme and frame others? Now Luo Qingtong wanted her to have a taste of what it was like to be framed. Bastard. Our third granduncle was suddenly killed when he was about to break through. So it was the Bai family who did it. The patriarch who was the first to receive the dossier was so angry that he angrily shouted after reading it. After him, many other people also snatched the dossier and immediately started reading it. When they read it, their hearts and lungs were about to explode. A group of elite disciples from our family went out to explore and did not return for a day and a night. We thought that they were killed by demonic beasts. We did not expect the Bai family to be the culprit. There is also a new batch of resources from our shop. We went through a lot to get it. In the end, they were robbed. We thought it was the Qin family who did it. We did not expect the Bai family to be the culprit. The people of the various clans looked at the records of the various events that had been recorded. The Bai family was behind almost all the major families' losses. It was no wonder that the Bai family had developed so quickly over the years. They had rushed from the smallest family to the top of the middle-ranked families. They thought that it was because they had a connection with the Huo family. They did not expect that it was all because of the contributions of these families. The Bai family might be able to take advantage of the situation by belittling their family's strength. Or perhaps the Bai family had seized their resources and used them to increase their strength. Under such circumstances, how could the Bai family's strength not increase? With that thought in mind, everyone was so angry that their blood was about to overflow. When they thought about how they had just spoken up for the Bai family and wanted to deal with the family who, they felt like they had been toyed with and humiliated like monkeys. Damn you, Bai clan. Well done, Bai Feng. Bitch. With a tearing sound, the head of a middle-ranked clan whose strength was about the same as the Bai clan, couldn't help but tear the file in his hand. Their clan's strength was originally above the Bai clan's, but because of the Bai clan's series of secret plots, the clan was almost divided and their vitality was greatly damaged. Only then did the Bai clan catch up. And according to the records, all of this was Bai Feng's plan. This slut was simply hateful. Following that family head, another group of people tore apart the dossiers in their hands. Anyway, there were plenty of dossiers on the ground. Even if they tore them to vent their anger, they were not afraid that they would not have enough evidence to deal with the Bai clan. Bai Feng. Bai Tongfeng. What else do you have to say? Chapter 1346. Bai Chongfeng and the others did not know what was going on. Bai Feng, on the other hand, already knew that things had gone south when she heard the screams of those people. When the scrolls with black and white words were scattered all over the place, she grabbed one of them and read it. She was so angry that she almost vomited blood. Some of the things on the scrolls were indeed done by the voodoo sect, but they were said to be done by the Bai family. That was not all. The problem was that some of the things that she did not ask the voodoo sect to do were also blamed on her and the Bai family. Bai Feng had been scheming against people all her life. She had almost caused family who to go bankrupt. She did not expect that at this time she would be schemed against so badly. From family who finding all the big and small families in Wildland City, to the people who imprisoned Bai Jintang in the dungeon, to these scrolls that were scattered all over the place. All of these things, all of them without Bai Feng noticing, had left her with no room for retaliation and no room for retreat. Bai Feng had no idea that the other party had set up a trap for her. By the time she realized it, she had already been pushed all the way to the bottom and had lost everything. She was like a gambler who had a good hand and thought that she would definitely win. In the end, before she could react, the other party had already played their trump card. They had won against her. Bai Feng's hands were trembling as she held the scrolls. She did not believe that Yen Yang and the others were the ones who came up with this plan. It's him. It's the person who secretly helped Yen Yang and the others. The person who knows how to use Gu. Bai Feng's expression was ferocious as she roared silently in her heart. Only that person could know so many things about the voodoo sect. He could even write down the things that were not done by the voodoo sect so realistically. Since the other party could control the Gu mother, he could naturally obtain all kinds of secret information from the spies in the big families who were controlled by the Gu mother. Bastard. Even though Bai Feng's heart was filled with hatred, she had to admit that the other party's move was indeed very good. It not only dealt a blow to the Bai family, but it also did not expose the spies in the big families. The other party's scheming was above hers. Hu Yenyang and the others actually had such a person helping them. Bai Feng gritted her teeth in her heart. What the hell is going on? Bai Chongfeng and the others had just arrived. On the way here they had been discussing how to deal with the people that Bai Jintang had captured and imprisoned. He didn't know how Hu Yenyang and the others knew that Bai Jintang was imprisoning people in the Bai family. For so many years they had never been exposed. How did the other party confirm the existence of these people and coincidentally come in and rescue them? What Bai Chongfeng didn't know was that Luo Qingtong had already killed Bai Jintang in Fenghua City, saving the people in his monastery. As the saying goes, a dog cannot change its habit of eating shit. When Bai Jintang came to Fenghua City, he did not forget to hunt for beauties. He even specially used a side courtyard to lock up those people. Then how could there be no one in the Bai family whom he had captured and tortured? Luo Qingtong only needed to find the place where he lived and follow the vine to get to the melon. As for plotting against the Bai family. Chapter 1347. Moreover, they were imprisoned in the inner courtyard of the Bai family. If they wanted to leave this place alive, they would have to deal with the Bai family and make a big deal out of this. Only then would they be able to leave safely. Not only would they be able to avenge themselves, but they would also be able to help them leave this place. Why wouldn't they do it? Bai Chongfeng's words were taken as an act of stupidity by the other family clans. Immediately the other family clans became even angrier. Bai Chongfeng, don't pretend to be stupid here. The people you imprisoned in the inner courtyard of the Bai family have already told us everything. And these scrolls. Take a look for yourselves. An elder of a mid-rank family clan said as he threw the scrolls in his hand in front of Bai Chongfeng. The latter was stunned for a moment before he noticed the scrolls on the ground. He picked up one of the scrolls and almost vomited blood like Bai Feng. What's going on? These things were not done by our Bai family. Bai Chongfeng really didn't know what the voodoo sect did. However, the Bai family did benefit from what the voodoo sect did to the other family clans. No matter how much Bai Chongfeng denied it, it was useless. After all, those things were all done by Bai Feng in secret to help the voodoo sect and the Bai family develop their strength. Now that he had been put on the table, under the connection between the two, he had no way to defend himself. Just when Bai Chongfeng was about to explode in anger, Hu Yenyang's cold voice sounded. Everyone, you've all seen it. These are not things that our family who slandered the Bai family. Not only did the Bai family make a move on our family whose people, they also didn't let the other families off. I don't know how many hidden hands they have in your family clans. I don't know how long it will take for you to follow in the footsteps of our family who, if you don't deal with them today, when they make a move, I'm afraid you won't be able to appear in Wildland City again. As Hu Yenyang's voice sounded, the faces of the other family clans instantly changed. Hu Yenyang's words poked at the deepest and most secret worry in their hearts. The Bai family was able to do so many things in their family. Who knew how many hidden hands they had planted in their clans? If they didn't get rid of the Bai family, then the one who would suffer in the future would be their own family. Disregarding everything else, the Hu clan was a good example. Back then, family Hu was so imposing. They were practically the strongest middle-ranked family in Wildland City, and they were strong enough to stand at the pinnacle. In the end, wasn't it because of the Bai family's series of schemes that almost ruined their family? The strength of the clan had declined to the point that it was barely at the bottom of the mid-grade clans. When everyone thought of this, they suddenly felt a chill in their hearts. His gaze towards Bai Chongfeng and the others was also indescribably cold. Bai Chongfeng and the other members of the Bai family instantly panicked after being stared at by so many people. Just as cold sweat broke out on their foreheads and they couldn't help but retreat step by step, Bai Feng finally calmed down and raised her head. Hu Yenyang, I have to admit that you found a good backer this time. Not only did family Hu survive this time but you also made a comeback. Chapter 1348. Bai Feng raised her head. She no longer had that gentle and delicate expression on her face. In its place was a cold and arrogant look. When Bai Feng realized that there was no way for her and the others to explain herself, she decided to drop the act. She returned to her cold and arrogant self. She looked down at Hu Yenyang and the others and laughed coldly. So what if the Bai family is behind all this? Do you dare to lay a finger on me? Don't forget that I am not just the eldest daughter of the Bai family. I am also the young mistress of the Hua family. What right do you have to lay a finger on me? What right do you have to lay a finger on me? Her gaze swept across all the family members present. Her gaze was arrogant as she looked at them, and a hesitant expression appeared on her face. Hu Yenyang, do you know? The most successful thing I have done in my life was to set you up. Marry Hua Ting. Bai Feng looked at Hu Yenyang and lifted her head proudly. She played with the caramel on her fingernails and said proudly, "You don't know how good he is to me. How honorable the identity of the young mistress of the Hua family is. So what if you've invited these people and exposed our Bai family's secret? You still can't do anything to me, can you? Hu Yenyang, you must know that all these identities should have been yours. Unfortunately it's all mine now. Furthermore, this time, none of you from the family Hu family can even dream of stepping out of the Bai family's front door." Bai Feng, who had completely revealed her true nature, looked at Hu Yenyang and the others with an icy gaze. She then turned to the surrounding family members and said coldly, "If you don't want to be dealt with by the Hua family, get out of here immediately and keep your mouths shut." Bai Feng's words instantly caused the surrounding people from the various clans to reveal furious expressions on their faces. However, because of the threat in Bai Feng's words, none of them dared to voice their anger. They were really angry at the Bai family's actions. They did not want the Bai family to continue being so arrogant. But they could deal with the Bai family. The Hua family was not to be trifled with. Putting everything else aside, the Hua clan was one of the top clans in Wildland City, and they had a saint overseeing them. Hua Ting, on the other hand, was the most favored successor of the Hua family in this generation. Bai Feng was Hua Ting's wife. Even if the Bai family had done something so outrageous, the Hua family would suppress the matter for the sake of the Hua family's reputation. The small and medium-sized families present were no match for the Hua family. In Wildland City, the difference in strength between the clans was just that cruel. The difference in level was also huge. The strong enjoyed all the privileges, while the weak could only swallow their anger. Just as the group of clansmen were holding their breaths and preparing to retreat, a faint voice suddenly sounded from behind Hu Yenyang and the others. "The eldest daughter of the Bai family sure talks big. But I really want to know who the Hua family will find to avenge you if they can't spread the news. The Bai family has mysteriously died in the inner courtyard of their own home. It is suspected that someone is seeking revenge. However, the identity of the culprit is too mysterious and too powerful. Many of the powerful family members present have done their best to help, but they are helpless. How sad. Eldest daughter of the Bai family, what do you think?" Chapter 1349. Young Master. Luo Qingtong's figure appeared in front of the crowd as their voices rang out. Luo Qingtong pulled Chu Lingfeng along with an indifferent expression on her face. They walked through the path that family Hu had opened up and stood in front of Hu Zhongtian and the others. As for Bai Feng, after hearing Luo Qingtong's words, her expression changed instantly. You. She could not be bothered to investigate Luo Qingtong's identity. She quickly lifted her head and looked around her. Then she suddenly realized that this place seemed to be a little too quiet. Apart from this group of people, there was not a single sound coming from outside. Where were the Bai family's guards? When Bai Feng had just threatened Hu Yenyang and the others, she had secretly crushed the summoning order in her hand to gather the many powerful cultivators and elite guards of the Bai family. However, at this moment, apart from this group of people, there was no one else present. Bai Feng's heart was filled with shock and anger. Luo Qingtong's voice slowly rang out at this moment. There's no need to look. Her expression was indifferent as she lifted her eyes to look at the shocked and furious Bai Feng and the others. I've already sealed off the surrounding space with my array. No news or movements from here can be transmitted out. It can do as you please. Luo Qingtong's expression was indifferent as she spoke with a smile. Her last words were naturally directed at the people from the various family clans who were preparing to evacuate. After Luo Qingtong had pulled Chu Lingfeng out of the dungeon, she had not been idle. When Hu Yenyang and the others arrived, she had been busy in the depths of the inner courtyard. Now everyone here was enveloped in the array that she had set up. Bai Feng wanted to inform the Huo family to come and save them? He must be dreaming. Since Luo Qingtong knew about her relationship with the Huo family, how could she not have taken precautions against her having a backup plan? Today everyone from the Bai family must die. Only with their deaths could she avenge family Hu and protect the news of family Hu's map of the Holy Monarch's tomb. Luo Qingtong did not doubt that if the Bai family managed to escape this ordeal, they would immediately tell the Huo family about the map of the Holy Monarch's tomb. When that time came, it would inevitably attract more trouble. Luo Qingtong did not wish for any more twists and turns in the matter of the Holy Monarch's tomb. As Luo Qingtong's words rang out, the people from the various family clans who were preparing to evacuate immediately and the others' footsteps immediately stopped in their tracks. Their stomachs. The Bai family had caused them so much trouble, yet Bai Feng's mention of the Huo family made them not dare to make a move. It would be a lie to say that he wasn't aggrieved or angry. Especially when they thought of the possibility that the Bai family had played tricks in their families, they became even angrier and more furious. However, Bai Feng was the daughter-in-law of the Huo family, and the Bai family was the Huo family's in-laws. They could make a proposal to the Bai family and ask for compensation, but they would not dare to lay a hand on the Bai family like family Hu's people. Now that Luo Qingtong had spoken, their eyes instantly lit up. Especially after seeing the shocked and furious expression on Bai Feng's face, they were even more certain and believed in Luo Qingtong's words. If Bai Feng and the others could not spread the news, then even if they killed Bai Feng and the others, so what if they annihilated the Bai family? Chapter 1350. All of you. Seeing the other clans surrounding them, the expressions of the Bai clan's people became even more furious. Bai Feng was the same. She had tried several methods but was unable to send a message out of Luo Qingtong's array. She was also unable to get any response from the Bai family's elite guards outside. Her expression was indescribably twisted. Don't be so smug. Even so, this is our Bai family's territory. We still have the advantage. Bai Feng's face was filled with ferocity. Her eyes were cold. Even though Hu Yenyang's people had used an array to seal the space here, the inner courtyard was still an important place for the Bai family. When they came, they had brought many guards with them. With just these people and the Bai family's strong cultivators, it would not be a problem to wipe out all these people. After all, these people that Hu Zhongtian had called over did not bring many people with them. Most of the clans only sent their clan leaders or clan elders to come. Since they wanted to make a move against the Bai family, they might as well destroy them as well. They could then push the blame onto family Hu. However, Bai Feng's face was filled with malevolence as she thought. Plop, plop, plop. The guards of the Bai family who were following them suddenly swayed and fell to the ground. All of them were unconscious. Bai Chongfeng and the rest were also thinking the same thing as Bai Feng. However, before they could give the order, all the guards on their side had fallen. As a result, the Bai family's strong cultivators were facing off against family Hu and the other families. The Bai family's advantage was gone. The other families, including family Hu's people, had completely offset the number of strong cultivators on their side. In fact, the other side had the upper hand. Their original plan to let the guards hold off these people first, then they would work together to break the array. However, it had failed. Alright, all the obstacles have been cleared. Let's do it. As Luo Qingtong's voice rang out, Hu Zhongtian and the rest immediately made their move. Although those clans were somewhat shocked by Luo Qingtong's methods, they were also curious about her identity. But at this time he didn't have time to think too much. He directly followed Hu Zhongtian and the others and rushed towards Bai Chongfeng and the others. The other party had done a lot of things in their family and had the backing of the Hua family. They had to be eliminated. Otherwise their clans would most likely end up in the same state as the Hu clan. Bai Changfeng and the others didn't even have time to recover from their shock before they were forced to fight back. In the blink of an eye, the entire area near the exit of the dungeon was filled with traces of heaven and earth spirit qi rioting. Rumble. A group of Sage Realm experts and those who had surpassed the Sage Realm were attacking each other. The Bai family's experts were all present. On the other hand, Hu Zhongtian's side was filled with experts from various families. The number of experts gathered together was not much less than the number of experts from the Bai family. A group of people were fighting. As for Bai Feng, the instant those guards fell, her heart was also violently alarmed. After all, her cultivation wasn't high at the moment, so she might be affected as well. However, after waiting for a while, she did not feel any dizziness. Chapter 1351. Luo Qingtong's voice rang out. Chu Lingfeng, go ahead. She looked at the big foolish man next to her. Did Bai Feng really think that she had escaped death by a fluke? How could Luo Qingtong allow her to pass out just like that? After all, Yan Yang was still waiting for her to avenge her mother. Of course, Yan Yang did not have any cultivation, but it was the same for Chu Lingfeng to avenge her. After all, a son should avenge his mother. Furthermore, even though Yan Yang had not mentioned it, Luo Qingtong could vaguely guess that Chu Lingfeng's stupidity might have something to do with the fact that Yan Yang had been hunted down when she was pregnant. Under those circumstances, Yan Yang was already very lucky to have been able to keep her life. She probably would not have been able to take care of the child in her womb. Hence, Chu Lingfeng's revenge was perfectly justified. Yes. Chu Lingfeng obeyed Luo Qingtong's every word. In reality, ever since he had seen Bai Feng and found out that this woman was the main culprit who had almost killed his mother and caused her to suffer for the rest of her life, Chu Lingfeng had stared at Bai Feng with bloodshot eyes. He was like an enraged, ferocious beast as he stared fixedly at her. If not for the fact that his loyalty to Luo Qingtong had been engraved in his bones and that he could not act without his master's orders, Chu Lingfeng would have charged over without regard for anything else and torn this woman to shreds. When he heard Luo Qingtong's orders, his figure flashed and he immediately charged towards Bai Feng. Bai Feng, on the other hand, became even more vigilant when she realized that she was not affected by the knockout powder. The powerful cultivators were now engaged in a chaotic battle near the exit of the dungeon. When Bai Feng saw that no one was paying attention to her, her eyes turned gloomy and cold as she prepared to conceal herself and leave. Once she had left the area enveloped by the array, she would make sure that all the people in family who would die without a burial place. She was viciously swearing in her heart when suddenly, she heard a strong whooshing sound. The sound came from afar and it almost caused a series of sonic booms in the air. When it reached Bai Feng's ears, it was like a thunderclap. Boom. Bai Feng's face instantly turned pale with fright as the gust of wind blasted towards her. She desperately dodged to the side. At this moment she hated the fact that she was only a martial emperor. Furthermore, her cultivation had barely stabilized at the martial emperor realm. Regardless of whether it was her response or attack, she was much weaker than her previous strength. Bang! As Bai Feng dodged, the gust of wind brushed past her waist. With a loud bang, she smashed into the hard limestone floor. In an instant, the huge blue stone slab, which was about 6 feet thick, was smashed open by the strong wind. The sky was filled with stone fragments and dust. At the side of Bai Feng's waist, where the gust of wind had brushed past, she instantly felt an intense pain as if her bones had been broken. It was so painful that Bai Feng could not help but cry out in pain. Ah! Her voice was sharp and in the next second she fell to the ground. Bang! At the place where the gust of wind had landed, the dust and smoke dispersed to reveal a tall and well-built figure. Bai Feng, you've harmed my mother. I want you to pay with your life. Chu Lingfeng's low, muffled voice rang out. In an instant, like thunder, the bones in his body suddenly made a series of cracking sounds. Chapter 1352. Bam. Chu Lingfeng's physique and the power of his attacks made him look like a human-shaped weapon that was filled with a ferocious aura. Bai Feng had just crawled up from the ground and quickly dodged to one side when she saw the situation. Boom. 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 As Chu Lingfeng threw out punch after punch, the surrounding air and ground shattered like dust. The energy ripples that spread out were like water ripples in an instant. The strong winds from Chu Lingfeng's attacks actually formed a substantial vortex of spiritual energy in the air. One should know that his powers had only just reached the martial emperor level. Now it seemed that he could completely defeat Bai Feng. Bam. 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 Bai Feng's beautiful face turned pale as she retreated rapidly. Initially, she had been delusional in thinking that she could use her powers, which had once reached the peak of the martial spirit level, to fight back against Chu Lingfeng. After all, she had once reached that level. Even though her powers had been forced to decrease, her method of using her powers and experience would definitely be much better than an ordinary martial emperor. Therefore, even though Bai Feng's powers had only just reached the martial emperor level, she could still unleash powers that were far stronger than her current level. Logically speaking, her attacks should be able to restrain Chu Lingfeng's attacks. However, the latter's physique that allowed him to be unafraid of attacks was simply too terrifying. Bai Feng's attacks blasted out one after another, but Chu Lingfeng simply ignored them. Bai Feng's attacks were painful when they landed on his body. However, no matter how painful it was, could it be compared to the times when he had fought for his life in the bloody battle arena in order to increase his powers? To Bai Feng's attacks, they were just like scratching an itch. Furthermore, as Bai Feng's attacks increased, his entire being became like a human-shaped ferocious beast that had been enraged and became even more violent. Bai Feng's face flashed with a look of panic as she was bombarded by such attacks. She could also feel how terrifying Chu Lingfeng was. Yen Yang's foolish son actually had such talent and physique in battle. Bai Feng's heart was filled with an indescribable jealousy. She knew that all of this was probably inherited from the man who had taken Yen Yang's virginity. If she had not sent people to chase after Yen Yang, causing the latter's fetus to be damaged, the current Chu Lingfeng might have been even more stunning. Thinking of this, Bai Feng's heart felt like it was being bitten by ants. If she had known that the man was so powerful, how could she have let Hu Yenyang take advantage of her? Bai Feng kept telling Yenyang that the best thing she had done in her life was to snatch Hu Ting away. However, Hu knew that she was actually going crazy with regret. Because she had snatched Hu Ting away, but she had pushed another man who was even more powerful to Hu Yenyang's side. If there was no Hu Yenyang, that man might have been hers. In the end, by the time she realized how powerful that man was, she had already hooked up with Hu Ting. She had no chance to seduce that man at all. In the end, he had no choice but to give the opportunity to his younger sister, Bai Xing. Now that she had left with that man, she did not know what kind of honorable life she was leading in that place. How could a mere young madam of the Huo family compare to that man's status? It was all Hu Yenyang's fault. Chapter 1353. Finally, he found a flaw in Bai Feng's movement technique and he immediately closed in on Bai Feng. After taking one of Bai Feng's attacks head-on, he sent Bai Feng flying with a punch. Bai Feng never thought that Chu Lingfeng would be so ruthless. He would rather injure himself in order to take one of her attacks head-on in order to attack her. She was caught off guard and was sent flying by Chu Lingfeng's attack. This time she was not as lucky as she had been the last time. Chu Lingfeng's punch landed squarely on her chest, causing the left side of her chest to cave in and breaking 3 or 4 of her ribs. This time she let out a shrill scream as she landed heavily on the ground, almost smashing a hole in the thick blue stone floor below. Chu Lingfeng's figure closed in on her again. Bai Feng had schemed against his mother for so many years and caused his mother to suffer so much. If they had not met his master, he and his mother would have died in some corner of the Blackfield subcity of Eastern Fence Country. Chu Lingfeng's eyes were filled with murderous intent as he stared at Bai Feng. It was not the first time that he had seen his mother cry secretly because she missed his maternal grandfather and family who. His mother had suffered so much for the sake of raising him. He must avenge his mother. Bang! Chu Lingfeng's punch landed fiercely on Bai Feng. Bai Feng was lying on top of the huge hole in the ground. When she saw Chu Lingfeng's punch coming towards her, her face instantly contorted and changed. No! Bai Feng's expression changed drastically. In the next second she seemed to have made up her mind as she gritted her teeth fiercely. This is not good. Chu Lingfeng, come back quickly. Not too far away, Luo Qingtong, who had been watching Chu Lingfeng and Bai Feng's battle with Yen Yang, suddenly narrowed her eyes. A sense of danger rose in her heart. Almost in the next second her figure darted out and flew towards the place where Chu Lingfeng and Bai Feng were fighting. The moment Luo Qingtong moved, Bai Feng's figure suddenly changed in front of Chu Lingfeng. Suddenly, a pair of wings extended from her back, and limbs appeared under her armpits. She looked like a venomous insect. At the same time, the shadow of a huge venomous insect appeared behind her. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. Ah! The guards of the Bai family who were knocked out by Luo Qingtong's incapacitating agent suddenly woke up from the intense pain after the threads entered their bodies. In an instant an extremely sharp and miserable shriek came out of his mouth. Swoosh! Their bodies convulsed violently. Then the power of the flesh and blood in their bodies dried up and dissipated at a speed visible to the naked eye. In an instant these people had been sucked dry and turned into dried corpses, turning one's body into a venomous insect. Luo Qingtong frowned as she watched all this. What Bai Feng had just used was the most evil and cruel of all the venomous arts. This venomous art would harm both the enemy and the user. It should not be used casually. Although it was very powerful, the price to use it was also very frightening. Moreover, it was not something that an ordinary venomous insect user could use. Logically speaking, Bai Feng could not possibly use this venomous art. She must have borrowed the power of something. Chapter 1354. Luo Qingtong's guess was right. When Bai Feng obtained the Gu technique tome from her, she also obtained a Gu dissolving pill, which allowed her to use the Gu dissolving pill when she was in danger. However, the price she had to pay was extremely high. The price was at least 10 years of her lifespan. The longer she used this Gu technique, the more her lifespan would be consumed. At the same time, it would be extremely damaging to her body. If Bai Feng used this Gu technique, she could forget about advancing and breaking through in the future. Furthermore, she would not be able to use any of her powers for a year. She would be no different from a cripple. Therefore, Bai Feng had never thought of using the Gu dissolving pill after obtaining it. As the eldest daughter of the Bai family and the young madam of the Huo family, no one could force her to use this Gu dissolving pill. However, she had never thought that she would be forced to use this Gu dissolving pill in the hands of Hu Yenyang's son, whom she despised and disdained the most. Bam! As Bai Feng absorbed the strength of the Bai family guards like a Gu worm, her aura instantly soared. Her strength, which had fallen to the level of a martial emperor, quickly recovered. Not only that, but she had also broken through to the saint stage and was about to surpass the saint stage. Boom! After absorbing the strength of the flesh and blood of the guards, Bai Feng's limbs instantly became as sharp as blades and slashed towards Chu Lingfeng. The latter was attacking her with all his might and could not avoid this attack at all. Even if Chu Lingfeng stopped immediately, he would not be able to avoid it. Chu Lingfeng. Luo Qingtong's figure leaped behind Chu Lingfeng at this moment. Lower your head. As Luo Qingtong's figure appeared, Chu Lingfeng immediately lowered his head obediently. He did not care that the limb in front of him was about to slash at him. Luo Qingtong held the 1,000-year soul guiding wood in her left hand and unsheathed the life and death yin-yang sword in her right hand. Almost instantly, the black and white long sword in her hand transformed into the shape of a living blade. A milky white light danced on both ends of the long sword. Bam! Luo Qingtong raised her hand to block. The sword light instantly blocked the limbs that were slashing towards her. Then she raised her hand and waved it. Heaven battling art. The living blade absorbed the living blade and the dead blade transformed. At the same time, the power of the 1,000-year soul guiding wood rushed into Luo Qingtong's hand and into the life and death yin-yang sword's attack. Boom! A black light flashed. In an instant, the huge blade of light was like the scythe of the Grim Reaper. It dragged a huge long tail of light and blocked the legs that were slashing at him. However, the power carried by the limbs was so strong that it collided with the sword light from Luo Qingtong's life and death two right sword almost instantly. In an instant, a violent storm of energy was emitted from the place where the two sides collided, raging and spreading in all directions. Luo, two of the Luo of Luo Luo, of Luo Luo of course of the Luo Luo Luo. Bam! Luo Qingtong Luo was sent flying. His back was a bloody mess. He crashed to the ground almost instantly. Chu Lingfeng. Luo Qingtong Luo landed on the ground. Before she could check on Chu Lingfeng's condition, Bai Feng's attack came again. Today all of you will die. Bai Feng was crawling on all fours on the ground. The limbs that protruded from her body supported her back, making her look like a huge spider. Chapter 1355. She raised one of her legs and jabbed it towards Luo Qingtong. Once she killed this young man, she would be able to kill Hu Yenyang and her son. Then she would leave this area enveloped by the spell and gather the Bai and Hua family members. All the members of the Bai and families who had come today would all die. Bai Feng's expression was cold and stern. Her legs were like countless sharp blades as they jabbed towards Luo Qingtong. Bang bang bang. Luo Qingtong's figure flickered. The light in her eyes was as red as blood. Her figure kept darting and dodging Bai Feng's attacks. After Bai Feng's power had increased, she was indeed difficult to deal with. After all, surpassing the Saint Realm was not comparable to the Saint Realm. If Bai Feng was at the Saint Realm, Luo Qingtong could still think of a way to deal with him. Furthermore, Bai Feng's Gu technique was different from ordinary Gu techniques. Before Bai Feng's lifespan was exhausted, she would not be able to break it. Most importantly, Luo Qingtong frowned. The power of the 1,000-year-old soul guiding wood in her hand was gone. When she had blocked Bai Feng's attack earlier, she had used the death energy that had formed after the guards had died. In addition to the remaining power of the 1,000-year-old soul guiding wood, she was able to block Bai Feng's attack. However, she had no way of retaliating now. Luo Qingtong frowned as she thought of this. Bang bang bang. Her figure darted through Bai Feng's attacks. Bai Feng's heart grew more and more terrified. When Luo Qingtong had blocked her attack towards Chu Lingfeng, Bai Feng had not paid much attention to it. She had only thought that Chu Lingfeng had hidden some life-saving technique on him. Now that she saw Luo Qingtong's figure moving through her attacks with ease, her heart froze. Who on earth was this young man? How could a martial great realm cultivator dodge her attacks time and time again when she had increased her power to surpass the Saint Realm? Once could be a fluke. So many times it was definitely not a fluke. This young man was definitely not an ordinary person. Bai Feng was shocked. Her attention was completely diverted to Luo Qingtong. At the same time, his killing intent towards Luo Qingtong was ignited. The other party was so powerful. Whether it was because of her talent or something else, since she was on Hu Yenyang's side, then she had to die. Otherwise he would definitely become a huge threat to them. Bai Feng made a prompt decision. Swoosh! Threads of energy suddenly burst out from her body and shot towards Luo Qingtong. Those threads of energy were the same attack that Bai Feng had used to absorb the flesh and blood energy of those guards. Once they came into contact with it, their energy would be immediately absorbed by White Phoenix. The power of those threads instantly weaved like a net and swept towards Luo Qingtong. Rip! A blood-red light flashed in Luo Qingtong's eyes. Her figure shifted and dodged the threads of energy that were like a spider's web. However, the power of those threads was extremely violent. In an instant, the sleeves of Luo Qingtong's robes were sliced open by the power of the threads of energy from the heaven and earth. In the next second, a furry little thing fell out from within. That silvery fur, the tip of a pink nose and a large, soft, fluffy tail. It was the little fox that Yi Qianxian had transformed into. Bimbao. Chapter 1356. Haha. Seeing this scene, Bai Feng immediately laughed out loud. She was worried that she wouldn't be able to catch Luo Qingtong's weakness. Her opponent was as slippery as a loach. She didn't know how she could see through her attacks, but she couldn't catch her. But it didn't matter. If her opponent wanted to save this little fox, then it was her chance. Seeing Luo Qingtong rush towards the little fox, Bai Feng's expression was cold. Almost instantly, the power of the silk threads around her body suddenly rushed towards Luo Qingtong. But this time she learned her lesson. She knew that Luo Qingtong had a special ability that allowed her to avoid her attacks. If she rushed towards her opponent like before, she would definitely be seen through by her opponent and she might even be able to avoid it. Thinking of this, the silk threads that rushed out from her body suddenly spread out in all directions. Swish swish swish. As the silk threads flew around her body, they instantly surrounded Luo Qingtong within 100 meters of her body, trapping her in the middle. Then Bai Feng laughed out loud and tightened the power of the silk threads. Luo Qingtong scooped up the little silver fox in her arms and raised her head to see the power of the silk threads surrounding her from all directions. Different from before, the power of the silk threads had formed a prison, trapping Luo Qingtong completely. Even if Luo Qingtong had an eye technique, her opponent's silk threads had already formed a prison and there was no way for her to avoid it. Seeing this scene, Luo Qingtong's eyebrows furrowed slightly. In her arms, Yi Qianxian's body moved slightly. Previously, he had forcefully used the power that was sealed within the little silver fox's body by the fox demon blood curse and fell into a deep sleep. Now that he had recovered a little, he was immediately alarmed by the commotion outside and opened his eyes. At the same time, Bai Feng suddenly waved the limbs that extended from her body and slashed towards Luo Qingtong. The power that surpassed the saint realm was extremely fierce, and it caused the spiritual energy of heaven and earth in the surroundings to go berserk. Like a violent storm, it rushed towards Luo Qingtong. The power of the silk threads continued to tighten and they were getting closer and closer to Luo Qingtong. Bai Feng wanted Luo Qingtong to have no way to avoid it and no way to escape. As Bai Feng's violent attack approached, Yi Qianxian also discovered the danger that Luo Qingtong was in. He thought for a moment and recalled that Luo Qingtong was trapped in this fatal trap because of this little fox's body. But, damn it! This fox demon blood curse. Yi Qianmin had always looked down on everyone and was invincible. He had never thought that there would be a day when his woman would be trapped in order to save him. This was the greatest humiliation of his life. Yi Qianxian's fox-like face was cold. However, he was too small and too adorable. Even though he had put on such a stern expression, Luo Qingtong felt that he was too adorable. Thinking that he had been frightened by the unforeseen event, Luo Qingtong gently patted his little head to comfort him. She then looked coldly at Bai Feng, who was laughing evilly as she attacked. Her mind was racing as she tried to think of a way to escape. Yi Qianxian's face turned green when Luo Qingtong patted him on the head like a child would. However, when he saw that the young girl was in such a dangerous situation, he could not be bothered to dwell on this. Whoosh! Chapter 1357. Silver Bow. Luo Qingtong was prepared to take Bai Feng's attack head-on. Countless ideas flashed through her mind, but none of them would allow her to escape unscathed. The main reason was that Bai Feng's power had surpassed the saint's state. If it had been at the saint's state, given Luo Qingtong's enhanced eye powers, she would have been able to analyze the internal structure of those threads in a short amount of time. She would have been able to cut them off and escape with ease. But now she did not have enough time to analyze them and could only take them head-on. However, just as she made this decision, her arms suddenly became empty. Instantly, the little silver fox, which had been lying obediently in her arms, leaped out. Then, under Luo Qingtong's astonished gaze, it suddenly raised its paw. It matched the 10-directional dragon ring on its little paw with the 9 netherworld phoenix ring on Luo Qingtong's left ring finger. In an instant, the dragon and phoenix joined together head to tail. Before Luo Qingtong could react, a familiar aura of power surged into Luo Qingtong's body. This is Yi Qianxian's aura of power. Luo Qingtong was no stranger to this aura of power that had surged into her body. After all, to be able to surge into her body and be accepted by the aura in her body without any resistance, who else could it be but that man's power? But how could Silver Bao use Yi Qianxian's aura of power? Luo Qingtong stared at the little silver fox in a daze. Before she could think any further, Bai Feng's attack had already arrived in front of her. That violent and sharp wind split the sky in an instant. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth around Luo Qingtong was completely frozen. It was as if it had turned into an extremely hard metal cage, squeezing her in the middle. Those threads of power also carried a sinister and cold aura as they came from all directions to bind her. A two-pronged attack. Bai Feng did not believe that Luo Qingtong would be able to escape from her hands. The limbs that danced around her flashed with a sharp and cold light in the air. They had serrated barbs as they slashed fiercely at Luo Qingtong. The shadow of the goo worm behind her also raised its head and roared soundlessly. Boom! Following Bai Feng's attack, Luo Qingtong quickly regained her senses. She no longer thought about the little silver fox. Instead, she focused all her attention on facing Bai Feng's attack. Whoosh! Luo Qingtong moved forward and grabbed the silver fox from the back of her hand. At the same time, bang! The life and death sword soared in Luo Qingtong's hands. In an instant, the power that Yi Qianren poured into her body was like thunder, rumbling and exploding into the black death blade in her hand. In an instant, a ray of light shot out 3 feet. Following that, Luo Qingtong's figure leaped up and she waved her hand. Heaven battling art. After receiving Yi Qianxian's Luo Qingtong's blood-red pupils spun rapidly. She immediately copied Yi Qianxian's heaven battling art in its most perfect state. One sword to destroy heaven. Steal heaven's fortune. Its power was vast and mighty like the setting sun in the Milky Way. Boom. Luo Qingtong's sword slashed out. In an instant, heaven and earth shook and blood split the sky. The threads of power that were surrounding Luo Qingtong were all cut off. They turned into ashes in the air. Chapter 1358. What? Bai Feng's eyes instantly widened at the sight of this. She had thought that Luo Qingtong was definitely going to die. She had revealed a smug and arrogant smile on her face just a moment ago. However, in the next second, her smile turned into panic and fear. No. This is impossible. But as soon as the last miserable cry resounded, Bai Feng's figure was instantly blasted flying. She'd been blasted flying by that ray of light. Ah! Bai Feng screamed in agony. The shadow of the goo worm behind her had been destroyed in an instant. The limbs that had extended from her body and the wings on her back had disappeared in an instant. Ah! Her body landed heavily on the ground. This time Bai Feng did not manage to get up. This is impossible. This is impossible. Her cultivation had surpassed the martial saint level, but she had been sent flying by a martial ancestor. Bai Feng lay on the ground on the verge of death. She could not believe that she had lost to Luo Qingtong. She could have killed Luo Qingtong with a single strike. However, her opponent's power had suddenly increased exponentially. She had defeated her in the end. What is going on? How could such a thing have happened? Bai Feng was in disbelief. At this moment, with a few bangs, the battle on Hu Zhongtian's side had also ended. Bai Changfeng and the others had landed not too far away from Bai Feng. A group of people from the Bai family had gathered. Pfft! Bai Changfeng and the others spat out a mouthful of blood. Many of them had fallen to the ground and lost consciousness. It was unknown whether they were dead or alive. Bai Changfeng and a few others with higher cultivations had also fallen to the ground. They had clearly suffered serious injuries. Dong! Hu Zhongtian and the others landed next to Luo Qingtong. Young master. Luo Qingtong's expression was calm as she looked at Chu Lingfeng. The latter had already gotten up with Yen Yang's help. Although his injuries were serious because of his physique, it was not a big problem. Thus, ninth brother, Chu Lingfeng scratched his head and looked at Luo Qingtong like a child who had done something wrong. He almost caused an accident to Luo Qingtong just now. Only the heavens knew that when he and Yen Yang saw Luo Qingtong being surrounded by Bai Feng's energy threads, their hearts almost stopped. If something really happened to Master because of him, he didn't want to live anymore. With that thought in mind, Chu Lingfeng glared fiercely at Bai Feng, who was lying on the ground, unable to move. It's all because of this bad woman, she almost hurt Master. Chu Lingfeng's gaze was ferocious, and Hu Yenyang's gaze towards Bai Feng was also abnormally cold. Young master, please leave her to me. Hu Yenyang said coldly. Bai Feng had caused her to be so miserable, and she had almost caused their family Hu to be destroyed. And just now she had tried to kill Luo Qingtong. Hu Yenyang would definitely not let her die so easily. She would let Bai Feng know what was called hell on earth. Okay. Luo Qingtong nodded indifferently. Then her figure flashed and she appeared next to Bai Feng. She raised her hand and struck towards Bai Feng's dantian. She wanted to cripple Bai Feng's strength so that Yen Yang could deal with her. After all, the latter did not have any strength. Luo Qingtong did not want Bai Feng to hurt Yen Yang. Chapter 1359. Stop it. Seeing this scene, the group of people who had just entered the inner courtyard suddenly froze. Then the man in the lead immediately cried out, "My husband!" Hearing this voice, Bai Feng's face, which was already filled with despair, was suddenly shocked. Then she cried out in surprise, "My husband, save me!" The moment they heard Bai Feng's cry, the faces of the people from the family and the other family clans froze. Husband. The only person who could be called husband by Bai Feng was. They all turned around and looked in the direction of the voice. On the other hand, Luo Qingtong's eyes narrowed fiercely. Bang! Her palm did not stop at all as it landed directly on Bai Feng's body in front of her horrified eyes. Ah! Bai Feng's body suddenly fell to the ground and began to roll continuously. Luo Qingtong's palm had not only penetrated her dantian and smashed it into pieces, it had also destroyed all the meridians in her body. In an instant, Bai Feng was like a deflated balloon. The energy in her body was leaking out continuously. Ah! My power, my power! Bai Feng cried out in despair. Previously, Luo Qingtong had used the mother parasite to devour most of her power and give it to Hu Fei. That was enough to make her collapse. Now, Luo Qingtong had completely destroyed her cultivation and reduced her to an ordinary person. How could Bai Feng tolerate such a difference? Furthermore, it was in front of the people from the Huo family. What prestige did the young mistress of the Huo family have after losing her power? Bai Feng's face was filled with horror. She did not expect Luo Qingtong to be so daring. The people from the Huo family had already arrived and she had already called out the word, husband. How dare the other party attack her? Bai Feng's heart was filled with pain and despair. She almost fainted. When Luo Qingtong attacked, the group of people who had rushed in from outside the Bai family's inner courtyard were also furious. Bastard! How dare you! A figure suddenly rushed out from the group of people and appeared beside Luo Qingtong in an instant. A palm shot towards Luo Qingtong. Luo Qingtong stood in place without moving. Hu Zhongtian, Hu Fei and the others immediately rushed forward and stood in front of her. Bang! Hu Zhongtian and the newcomer's palms collided. In an instant, a violent gust of wind shot out in all directions. Both of them took a step back at the same time. Young master. Father. Hu Fei and the others quickly appeared beside Hu Zhongtian. A group of people from the Huo family also appeared in front of the person who attacked Luo Qingtong. Young master, are you all right? One of the Huo clan's elders asked. I'm fine. Huo Ting's expression was cold. He looked at Hu Zhongtian and the others. Why did you attack my wife? And the Bai family? Huo Ting had received news from Bai Chongfeng earlier. The latter had thought that the family whose item was in the bag and had sent a message to Huo Ting, asking him to bring the Huo family's people here. When the time came, Bai Feng would explain the origin of the map of the sage monarch's tomb that she had obtained from the family who. It was guaranteed to be flawless. When the time came, the Bai family could rely on the Huo family's strength to obtain the benefits of the sage monarch's tomb map. Chapter 1360. Huo Ting's expression turned cold as he looked at the injured and dead Bai family members around him, as well as the obvious signs of a brutal attack. Especially Bai Feng. As his wife and the young madam of the Huo family, her powers had been crippled. Huo Ting looked furious. At this moment a cold voice suddenly rang out. The Bai family members have only themselves to blame. Their crimes are all written in these scrolls that are scattered all over the floor. They schemed against my family who and almost destroyed my family who. Not only that, the Bai family also tampered with other family clans. Let's settle our grievances with each other and take revenge with each other. What's wrong? As this voice rang out, Hu Yenyang's eyes turned cold as she turned around and stood in front of Luo Qingtong. Huo Ting, didn't the Huo family insist that family who give you an explanation? Now, this is the explanation we are giving you. It's been more than 10 years. I think it's not too late to give you an explanation. As Hu Yenyang spoke, she lifted her leg and kicked Bai Feng away in front of all the Huo family members. But Bai Feng no longer had any powers left. With great difficulty, she controlled the twisted and hopeless expression on her face. She wanted to cry and complain to Huo Ting about what Hu Zhongtian and the others had done. She wanted to use her status as the young madam of the Huo family to slap them in the face. However, before she could speak, Hu Yenyang kicked her away. Instantly, Bai Feng screamed in agony and fell flat on her face on the ground. Bai Feng climbed to her feet with great difficulty. She was about to lash out at Hu Yenyang and complain to Hu Ting when the latter's voice suddenly rang out. Mother Yen. Hu Ting stared at Hu Yenyang in shock. This woman had changed so much compared to before. She was cold, heroic, graceful and noble. Hu Ting looked at Hu Yenyang in disbelief. If not for the fact that the woman's face had not changed and that he had remembered her face all these years, Hu Ting would have thought that he had mistaken her for someone else. That's right. It's me. Compared to Hu Ting's excitement, Hu Yenyang's expression was cold and indifferent. She raised her hand and picked up a scroll on the ground. Together with the evidence of what the Bai family had done to the Hu family and herself, she threw it in front of Hu Ting. Hu Ting, more than 10 years ago you said that I let you down. Your Hu family even said that I disgraced your Hu family and wanted me to pay with my life. Now I'll return all those words to you. Back then the one who humiliated your Hu clan was not me but her. Hu Yenyang said as she pointed at Bai Feng, who had been kicked away by her. I must take the lives of the Bai family members. It's up to you whether the Hu family is willing to swallow this vexation or not. As Hu Yenyang threw the documents in her hand, Hu Ting's face was filled with disbelief. He caught a piece of paper that was flying in the air and lifted his head to read everything on it. Then he looked at Bai Feng in disbelief. You were the one who set Mother Yen up back then. Hu Ting could not believe all this. Bai Feng was too good at pretending. In the Hu family, she was the young Madame Hu who was well liked by her in-laws and respected by everyone. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.